Hey, Neil, good to be on. I mean, look, I've got great friendships here in the Republican conference. Happy to work with them to try to stop the deluge from the radical progressive Democrats that are trying to undo the American way of life and have wide open borders. But you know what? We actually have to deliver. This is not that. This is the opposite of that. You saw right now, we have Bill Melugin out there reporting, great Fox reporting as always. We have our Border Patrol and people in National Guard getting overwhelmed right now in El Paso with a flood of migrants flooding across the border. We're going to fund that. That's what Republicans are going to do in this bill. We're going to continue to fund that. If you care about the border, you're getting nothing here. It is completely false to say that we're getting anything here that will help. And in fact, what we're going to get is more money to process more people, which means you're going to get more people at the border. Nothing is going to stop the flow at the border in this bill. So we're funding open borders. We're funding the mass releases of people in violation of the law, using parole, the same laws that were violated to release the individual who came in and killed Laken Riley. I can't do that. No Republican should. Any Republican who votes for this bill should be ashamed of themselves. If you care about inflation, this bill spends at a higher level than Nancy Pelosi. This bill continues the regulatory assault on American hard workers through the climate agenda by the radical progressive Democrats, and we do nothing to seriously unwind it. You're not going to combat inflation while you're regulating us to death, while you're spending more money than we have. You can't beat inflation that way. And now you're seeing the Fed wrestle with it in real time, where they're trying to figure out what to do. And, you know, they want to cut rates, but they're not sure they can. Why? Because we have some stagflationary pressures that we're trying to manage right now.
Well, so you're
this
a no
bill will
vote.
do
It
nothing
sounds like
to
you're
address
definitely
that.
a no vote, Congressman, and you talk that no Republican should vote for this. If they heed your advice, we are definitely going to shut down on Saturday, right?
Well, look, the government continues to operate. You know that. And it's something like 85% of the government never shuts down anyway. And we have laws in place to pay for people. The bottom line is we should pass a CR for 2 weeks. Let the American people see what's in this bill. They will reject it. No Republican, I promise you, would vote for this bill once their constituents looked at it and saw the absurdities.
Speaker Johnson looked at it, Congressman, saw it and endorsed it.
Yeah.
So
right.
does that mean he made a huge mistake here?
Yes, and if the American people see what's in the bill,
stick around. Some of your colleagues are angry at him like I haven't seen before.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to go down that road right now, but what I will do is talk about the $156,000 for the Hartford Gay Lesbian Health Collective, the $1.1 million for a EV innovation hub, a $2 million for the Oregon clinic that provides hormone therapy
everything he said
to kids.
is dead on accurate. So, I saw some of these line items, sir, but I'm getting back to the speaker. You're angry. I know you're good friends. You want to avoid what happened with Kevin McCarthy if you can control it. But right now, maybe that's the reality, that even the push and the unpopularity, he's not going anywhere. But is he dead man walking?
Look, this will all sort out over time. Right now, I have a duty to try to make sure the American.
It's not sorting out.
Well, hold on, Neil. Let me back up. Last year, we set out to change the House of Representatives. We got 7 bills passed out. We were able to get bills sent down to the floor. We were able to get 1,100 amendments. We were able to pass Limit, Save, Grow. We were able to pass H.R. 2. We were able to demonstrate what you can do when you come together, and we did that. Now we're seeing what happens when the Uniparty pushes back because they like their defense spending. They like to do whatever the defense world says, and they're afraid of shutdowns. What we're trying to do is say we should unite. We should have passed a continuing resolution that would have embraced the caps, would have triggered the caps that were passed on a bipartisan basis. The Speaker didn't do that. We're now going to suffer the results of that, and every American needs to know it. Because when we go down and sit down and negotiate on a supplemental bill, when we're talking about Israel, when we're talking about Ukraine, when we're talking about the border next, the Speaker needs to know the American people do not accept what is in this bill. We cannot continue to do this. So we are moving the needle. We're just not moving the needle fast enough. The Speaker got this one wrong. I hope the Speaker gets the next one right. But if we're going to win in November, Republicans need to lead. They can't continue to be Democrat-lite, which is what they're doing. I'm trying to stand up here in Washington for something different, stand against the Uniparty. I don't kiss anybody's ring, Democrat or Republican. I kiss the rings of the Lord Almighty and the 750,000 people I represent.
There's another move afoot, Congressman. This House GOP group, the Republican Study Committee, 178 Republicans. I don't know if they're all in support of this measure, but it calls for trimming $2.7 trillion from Social Security and Medicare over the next decade. What do you think of that?
Well, what they put forward, and my friend Ben Klein was leading that up from Virginia, and they put forward an approach that is, I think, responsible to try to open up the conversation about what we do. I sit on the budget committee. I made the point in a budget committee hearing a couple of weeks ago when my Democratic colleaagues were saying, well, you can't talk about Social Security and Medicare. I'm saying, well, how on earth are you going to wrap your hands around $34.5 trillion in debt and $1 trillion of debt every 100 days? And by the way, this morning, we had the Democrat head of OMB, right, Shalonda Young, before us in the committee. She was talking about all this revenue they're going to bring in. Neil, you're a student of all this. She's going to claim over the next 10 years they're going to bring in 19.7% of GDP in revenue. We've only done that 3 times in history. And so they're not selling something that's real. What they did in the Republican Study Committee was try to put something forward to open up the conversation about what do we need to do.
You're quite right, Congressman. Very brave. It's also akin to touching the third rail. And one analyst had said, and doing so soaking wet. I'm just wondering, since Donald Trump has vacillated on this somewhat, he is open, or was open in an interview on another network, to addressing these entitlements. But do you think this could boomerang on Republicans? It's very brave, as I say, because that's where the money is, and you're quite right to say it. But could that be a risky strategy?
Yeah, well, look, Ben Klein and Kevin Hern and the guys that put that together and they put that out, they're putting that out for the conversation that we need to have. Okay. Remember that the Budget Committee, though, we passed a budget last week. In that budget, we do bring up the reforms that are needed in Medicare and Social Security. But importantly, benefits are preserved, right? We all get we need to honor the commitments that Americans are depending upon, but we also have to get serious about reducing health care prices, instilling competition, restoring the ability for physicians and doctors to own their health care rather than bureaucrats and insurance companies. Republicans have plans to do that. We've just got to get out in front of it and go be on offense and say, look, we can actually save Medicare if we drive health care prices down. That's the goal of Republicans. That's what we're going to do if we're actually smart enough to get reelected. In order to get reelected, you got to lead now, and putting out this omnibus spending bill is not a good step to do that.
I will say this, Congressman, you speak your mind and you don't waffle. That could be both good and bad. We'll see what happens. Very good seeing you again.
You too, Neil. God bless. As always.
All right, Congressman Chip Roy. All right.